So sometimes it feels like the rules of the road are constantly changing. Each year, the state will add new laws to the books. Car insurance, always a big topic and historically a controversial one. Like, how much coverage do I need and why do I need it? Well, we're going to get some answers as we ask the lawyer, sponsored by Tapella and Eberspacher Law Firm in Charleston. Joining me is attorney Lindsay Rakers. Good to have you, Lindsay.
Thank you.
So historically, like I was saying, car insurance has been kind of this touch and go thing that people get sensitive about it. But I imagine you deal with people every day who are very grateful to have it.
Sure. I think a lot of things a lot of unexpected things can happen in a car crash. There's property damage, there's injuries, hospital bills, you can be off work. And without insurance of your own, you can be in a very difficult situation.
Sure. So you make this arrangement before you even get behind the wheel of the car, and God forbid you get into an accident. It's late at that point to really consider what you need to have. So what do you tell people? Like, what do you advise people to consider when they're getting the car insurance?
Well, that's right, and that's a good point. The state of Illinois requires all drivers to have liability coverage. What liability?
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to ask. What is liability?
Sure. What liability coverage will do is if you cause a crash and someone is injured, it will pay for those injuries. Okay. It will also pay for the property damage to the car that you hit. So again, under Illinois law, you're required to have at least $25,000 in coverage for injury per person, $50,000 per vehicle, okay, if there are more than one occupant, and then also at least $20,000 in property damage.
So, okay, and that's the other thing, is sometimes you hit a car, sometimes you hit an electrical pole or a street sign or something, and so that's covered under that as well.
Well, that's where it can be tricky, because what happens is with liability coverage, if you cause the crash, it's going to cover the car that you hit and the occupants of that car. But if you yourself are hurt, or if you cause the crash and your car is damaged, or a tree falls on your car, or you swerve to avoid a deer, there are other types of coverages that you should consider purchasing in addition to what's required by the state.
Tell me a little bit about some of those. What would you recommend to somebody out there who's seeing this now?
Sure. Well, first of all, like I said, the minimum coverage is $25,000. You can always buy more than that, and we recommend that you do. You can also purchase collision coverage, which will pay for damage to your car if you cause a crash. There's also comprehensive coverage, which if you're not involved in a crash but something happens to your car, vandalism or a tree branch falls on it, you're protected there. There's coverage called medical payments coverage, which we refer to as MedPay, and that it does not matter who's at fault for the crash. It will pay for medical bills for you and the occupants of your car. And people can buy $5,000, $10,000, even $20,000 worth of MedPay coverage. Okay. The one thing that we haven't talked about yet is uninsured and underinsured coverage. And so we've all heard of those situations where the other driver who was at fault didn't have the insurance even though they're supposed to, okay? So by law, Illinois requires all policies to be written with a $25,000 uninsured policy. So if you have insurance in Illinois, you know you have that. But what we recommend is also buying underinsured coverage, just in case your medical bills or your property damage is more than what that person caused.
It's interesting because clearly you're an expert on this, and so you deal with these kinds of cases pretty regularly, yeah?
Sure.
Okay, so when people contact you, what kinds of questions do you get?
Well, a lot of times people want to know who's going to pay for my car, how do I get to work, how do I get my medical bills paid, what am I going to do to put groceries on the table? And those are all things that can be answered by speaking with your insurance agent and a lawyer and figuring out what kind of coverage you need.
Yeah, and you can do that. You can talk directly to Lindsay Rakers. Thank you so much. Lindsay Rakers with Tapella and Eberspacher Law Firm in Charleston. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, if you have a question for our Ask the Lawyer segment, you can send us an email at CILiving@WCIA.com and put in the subject, Ask the Lawyer.